independence era, like that movement, nationalism movement, where women started coming out of the houses and they started participating in freedom struggle. Correct. They started understanding their self. They understood what they are. They understood their identity. They all started, coming out of the houses, on the roads. They started protesting for the independence. And then in the third phase, and then in the in second phase, women organizations also began to emerge. And in the third phase, that is post-independence, focus on fair treatment of women at home after marriage, and also in workplace, and right to political parity, that is political equality. Their representation should be there even in leading the society. So let's talk about early feminists. So I think you're very familiar with this particular picture, who's one of my most favorite personalities, where I try to follow their footprints. So now Savitribai Phule. So do I have to even give an introduction about this great personality? So yes, so she is the first woman teacher, right, in India, where she started educating women, and she started telling, bringing an awareness about importance of education. She, along with her, her husband supported her. She learned, she acquired knowledge through her husband, and then she used to go to these Dalit colonies and all, and then teach them. But on the way of her, people in the society, they were not supportive to her going over there. They used to throw stones, they used to throw cow dungs on her to stop her going to that kind of a locality and educate these downtrodden people. So she used to carry one pair of sari. So one, while passing, that will be full of cow dung. She used to change the sari and then teach them. Again, she used to come back with the same old sari, so that again they used to. So can you imagine the audacity of, patriarchy here? The power, how they used to suppress the other gender. Is that a good thing? And imagine what kind of mental trauma. If she would have been very weak, she wouldn't have, taken it in a challenging manner, and she wouldn't have continued doing the same. And then you have Fatima Sheikh. So she was born in 1831, and then we don't know her particular date of when she passed away. So she is an Indian educator. So she used to join her hands with Savitribai Phule, and what we have to recognize here is she is the first woman Muslim teacher. Okay, so from minority also, coming out of the shackles of religion limitations, it is again a challenging thing for a woman, right? And then Tarabai Sinde, she was an activist whose work Stri Purush Tulana is considered the first modern Indian feminist text. So she started, she speaks about the social order, how women are considered as inferior and how men are considered superior in the society, and how the imbalance of the society, right? And she also tries to talk about how we can balance the society by giving the equal rights to women. So now one more feminist, that is Ramabai Ranade. So she is the one who studied Sanskrit, the first woman who studied Sanskrit. So she, she took it as a challenge, because again here, women were not given access to get education, and later, she should not study Sanskrit because she is impure. So this is a divine sanction from the religion that says that no, women are impure. So they are not supposed to study Sanskrit. So she challenged it, and she studied it, and then and that's why Pandita Ramabai, her name is Pandita, and then she even went abroad, and then she acquired so much of knowledge, and then she became a Sanskrit scholar. And then this particular person I have to talk about, so who's very, very important, Though she wasn't, called too feminist, but she was a feminist because in every man's success, every successful man behind, so there is a woman, right? So she is none other than Ramabai Ambedkar. So Ramabai married Ambedkar in 1906, and then Ambedkar was 15, and then she was just 9. And then their journey started, and then she was a moral support to Ambedkar. So because you can imagine how many years that he went abroad, leaving entire family and the responsibility on her. And she never objected that. And she understood his importance in the society, and she also gave complete support to her husband to become, to bring a biggest change in the society. So here, her steadfast nature helped her overcome many difficulties. She held her head high amidst social injustice, right? So she was not a weak person. She was not weak. She was very strong. She, because of her strength, she was transferring this strength even to Ambedkar. Okay, so that's why I just wanted to talk about Ramabai Ambedkar. Is that only women feminists that we have to talk? No, there are men feminists also. So first one I have to talk about this is this superhero Raja Ram Mohan Roy. He crusaded against sati, polygamy and child marriage, fought for education and property inheritance rights for women back in 18th century itself. And then Jyotiba Phule, husband of Savitribai Phule, whom I had already introduced in the previous slide. So he worked with his wife Savitribai Phule and friend Sadashiv Ballal to set up a center against infanticide to help widows in labor and give birth, and founded Satyashodak Samaj, that is a Samaj where it talks about the disorder of the society, and then he talks about we have to construct a society which is casteless and religionless, and which should give the equality between the two genders. And then here, the main topic, the main important person, that is Dr. BR Ambedkar. Because you all have spoken much about this personality in the previous session. So now I would like to tell that he was the chief architect of Indian Constitution, because when I was listening to the previous the session, people were talking about Constitution of India. So I was thinking, okay, in my session I am going to talk about the provisions, constitutional provisions, and how it is helping and shielding women in Indian society. So he wrote Indian Constitution and guaranteed protections for a wide range of civil liberties for individual citizens. So he is the icon of downtrodden people, and including freedom of religion, and and the abolition of untouchability and outlawing of all forms of discrimination. Ambedkar argued for extensive economic and social rights for women. That is very, very important. So he did work only for the downtrodden people. He also worked for women of India, because women conditions were not great back then, right? So Indian society and the domination and how they used to look at these people as the other was actually pathetic. So then his ideologies were actually based on Periyar E.V. Ramaswamy, a few ideologies. He believed in his ideologies, marriage involves the enslavement of women by her husband, and not to waste money on marriage expenses. These are few his ideologies, Ramaswamy, Periyar's ideology, and he started self-respect movement. So in that self-respect movement, what happens? Self-respect weddings is based on rationalism and equality between partners, without any Brahminical rituals. So what happens, when the marriage happens, in religion we say that Kanyadan. So what does it mean, Kanyadan? Kanya is a person, right? It's a living creature. Yes or no? You agree? Yeah. Why do you want to give that person as dan? Is she a material? No. She is a living object. She is a living creature. There is no point giving someone, like, who is who to give someone as dan. We have given rice in dan or dal in dan. Okay, fine. What about this kanya dan? So you can imagine the intensity of being superiority on these kind of rituals, and also the dowry system. Why there is a point of giving dowry for a person to get married to a woman? Why? And also the point here is one more important thing I wanted to tell is, like, in marriage, what happens, like, the girl's father should wash the hands of, feet of the groom. Why? Just because your father offered a girl, you have to do all such things? Why not they do that to a woman? Will they? No. So these kind of, there is no logic for these kind of rituals. There was no logic. There is no logic at all. And where you have the caste hierarchy, right? So one caste is superior than the other. Yes. So the superior caste, which thinks that it is great, so it will obviously dominate the lower caste, right? Shudras or Shudras, that is Ati Shudras called as Panchamas, they are Dalits. So you can imagine the social order and how the injustice was happening on these downtrodden people, especially women. And he was against this caste system because of untouchability. So if you, like, I was very impressive when a person was vocal about, exchanging the lunch box in the previous session, right? So so many people, they say that, casteism is not there, sir, everybody is equal, they take reservation, everything is doing fine. We don't have that, idea at all. But what actually happening, that was the story which has happened very recently. It is not, in 18th century or 19th century that has happened, very recent story. So still the caste system is very existing in society. So where we are trying to dismantle all that. So now he explained the means of exploitation and oppression. So he was well aware about these kind of issues because he himself was a Dalit. As I told, the person who suffers inside the system will give more justice and understands more and more and more because he has underwent that psychological trauma. Now, then what happened? So he pre-independence, era. So he was very vocal about these kind of, the caste system, the oppression, and the untouchability problem. So he used to speak more and more about, he was very vocal about these things, and then he gave memorable speeches in roundtable conference also. So with that, he made a very good image from British people. And then he explained the status of depressed classes of the Indian and of Indian society as well as women. So prepared. So he knew that, like, when if he gets a chance of writing this Constitution of India, he was prepared so well that he has to bring some provisions, the constitutional provisions, where he can take out women from the clutches of patriarchy. So prepared scheme of political safeguards for betterment of oppressed classes of the society, advocated immediate introduction of adult franchise because see what happened in Western society, they after the constitution was in process, like women realized later that they don't have the right of vote, but here in India we didn't do that. There was no chance for women to come out of the doors and then on the roads and then asking for or protesting for right of women because it was already there. When